So I'm here with Jason Darrough, our Technical Product Manager for RESO. Thank you, yes. A lot of big fans of Jason out here. We're excited to have him on the team. As some of you may have come for Michael Menard from Delta Media Group, we had to shift a couple things on the fly. He's now going to be in the virtual roundtable sessions later, but this gives us a chance to dig in a little bit more for you on the certification reporting system, give you sort of a live intro to what that looks like on RESO's metadata, and then we'll have a roundtable a little bit later where we can sit down and talk specifically about these things. So we're obviously excited to be able to do this live with you because we're a good-sized group, but we should be able to get some back and forth. And again, if you have specific questions, particularly about certification rules, we'll get into that at the roundtables a little bit later this morning. So if we can kick off the website on the AV team, thank you, and we'll let you go, Jason.
Okay, so this is what you're basically going to see. Your vendor will be submitting this data to RESO to be analyzed. This is just the main overview screen, and if we go to view details here, go to view details here.
You know the number one rule they have for technical demonstrations? Never go live on stage. And here we are.
Okay, so here we are. This is test data. This isn't any MLS's data. We're going to have over here our overview. There's 24 resources, 1,287 fields, 2,920 lookups. Over here we have all of our different filters. So if we do all, that will be all the RESO fields, all the local fields you may have together. If we do RESO, this is just going to be the RESO data dictionary fields. If we do local, which there isn't going to be on this example, but these would be your fields that do not, maybe not fit into a RESO field, or they have not been mapped to one. But anyway, if we look at, let's look at all. Here we have all of our resources on the left, our property, our member, our office, and media, and so forth. We can explore this data. If we select property, let's just look at the above grade finished area. So once we select that, it will give you all of your data about the field over here. It's a number, data type. It's got a link over to the wiki page. Let me zoom out so we can see all of that. And the description as well. We'll have our OData info, which actually gives you full details on the nuts and bolts of the data type and the data aspects. And then notions should the data come with any. So if we go back to our data dictionary, we'll be able to just click on this. We'll link us to the actual wiki page, if you all are familiar with the RESO data dictionary wiki. And we'll let that load for a minute. So what you would probably want to start with once your vendor submits this over to you, because they will submit it, then they will approve it. It will go to you for final approval. You'd probably want to start with looking at your local fields and see if those could fit possibly into a RESO field, and then you could inform your vendor of that to get it more in line with the RESO data dictionary. I also would draw your attention to this search here, which is does a contains type of search. You can really type in anything. It doesn't have to begin with it. So we will look at, let's see, features. And we'll do, so this is going to give us all the fields that have the word features in it. We'll look at interior features. And this is actually a lookup field as opposed to a number field as we were looking at before. So it should, over here, yes, it will give us all of our lookups here. And again, each one of these would link you to the wiki page, where it'll give you the definition and all that other good stuff. We'll tell you, these are all RESO again, because this is test data, but if you had local fields too, if you say you had 30 RESO lookups and 7 local, it would show here. Again, we have our data information. If we go up here and click on your organization name, we're going to have this plotted on a graph that compares it with market averages. Well, it doesn't want to load, but that's what it does.
And can you explain why RESO would or wouldn't have data and performance stats on the RESO data set itself?
Yeah, so actually the RESO data set would be 100% data dictionary. And it really wouldn't mean much being compared to the average, but when you go here, as an MLS or as a vendor, you'll be able to see yourself up against the industry average for a percentage of how many fields that you have available versus filled. So there's called advertise. There's a category called advertise, which is what is basically in your metadata. So you have this field or you have this lookup in your metadata. There you go. Okay. So you have that for advertise, and then available is going to be, because we sample the data, we don't just look at the metadata. Available is going to be what's actually there and what's actually populated. So you can compare yourself here, and again with your filters, to the industry average, and then we have this slider bar as well. So you say you want to see, I want to see all the fields that are, above 50% available. You can slide that on up, and it would on the fly change your available bar there. And so in a nutshell, yes, that is our new coming soon certification site, reporting site.
And Jason's going to be the person you're going to interface with a lot as MLSs and MLS service providers on kind of your first phase to go through these reports. And if you've got some questions, you can come up, specifically now, obviously, again, at the work group. What do you think obviously the engineers and devs know exactly what they would dig into with this data, and there will be API access if you just want to grab the data. But what do you think the MLS folks should be thinking about first when they're starting to look at these reports? Yeah,
so for MLS folks, definitely a good point, Sam. I would say to look at your local. You can go through those. And it would probably be best to start, this is just going to give you the numbers. You might want to start here over on the details page where you can see the actual fields and lookups. If we go to local, again, there's not going to be any here, but say you have a square footage field that's coming up as local. That most likely can be mapped to one of the RESO square footage fields. You can start going through those and see, hey, I bet you this has a home in the RESO data dictionary. You can communicate that to your vendor. They can, make that change, and then it becomes, more aligned with the RESO data dictionary. Now, we don't expect you to do that with all of your local fields. Of course, everybody has local flavors in their market, but there could be things that just were missed and are not mapped, and this is a good place to easily see that, as opposed to, doing an SQL query and looking at the raw data. You can very easily sort and search through it on here.
And know that if you have folks who follow this in the transport work group, there is some fuzzy logic built in the future that will go out and look for these kinds of things to help make sure, as Rob Larson always likes to say, jealousy Windows isn't louvered Windows, and we'll be able to help find those things and make sure your vendors can keep pushing all of those gray areas into the black and white of standard or unique local. So again, we'll have some time to talk about this later. If you have questions on this right now, happy to do that. Can you talk, Jason, also about the RESO metadata is one thing, but then for us to have a reference server and what that could mean for, excuse me, the technology companies and the vendors who might work with us on that in the future?
Yes, so the reference server will be a place where you can kind of see what all of the fields and the lookups mean. It will give you information about them, and as a part of the actual data, as opposed to having to look through the data dictionary. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, and we're working on, I think you've all known that Austin and Actress had a reference RESO web API server, which has been a great benefit to clients who went out and wanted to learn how to work with a web API server. So we're building that out at RESO as well. So we'll have a version with dummy data. So it's not real records, but developers will be able to get into that system, learn how to work with a web API server, and then you as MLSs can, if you decide, have those vendors do that work prior to maybe having data relationships if you want to make sure you've got folks who are trained on using that system. Maybe that's a sandbox for your folks to work in. Lots of room for us to figure out what to do with those kind of tools, but that's what the work groups are for. It's for you as member organizations to tell us how far to build that out and what those systems should look like to get to client certifications, to prep courses for new vendors. And what would that look like in terms of our certification reports going forward?
So I also will mention that this will not be public unless you approve it to be. You will also be able to see other data from other vendors and so forth, but I just wanted to mention that first. But yes, so these certification reports will be again visible out there for everybody that has allowed that to do so. So vendors can go, if they would like, can go in and look at the market. Say they're looking for specific fields for their product to work. They're building a CMA product. They need these 10 fields. They'll be able to go on here and check through that and see who has that and who doesn't and what's going to work best for them, that kind of thing. That's just another use case for these certification reports.
And if there aren't any questions, Rick, go ahead.
How often is this data refreshed? It's continual changes. How often is it actually refreshed to stay current?
Every time someone gets retested. So he asked, how often is this data refreshed? So if an organization goes through the certification process, they pass everything, it'll be published, you can go back and retest at any point. So say you're a server provider and you want to tune up your system so it's faster and the performance stats are better, you can do that. You can go retest, have your data redone. So that's the great thing about this is you'll always hear Josh Darnell talk about agile, nimble. We can redo these at any point so people can keep improving their organization systems.
So as a third party, if we're not seeing the results that we see here in our data set, can we ask that it be retested?
So the certification terms and conditions and declarations say that an organization that gets certified, what they certify is what's available in production to customers. So this will be objective information that customers and providers can use together to have that conversation. And we'll see, again, as we go through the end of the year and into the beginning of next year, the new recertifications. Go ahead.
How do we get access? Do we have access to this dictionary?
This is not live yet. It will be shortly here.
Technically, the RESO data dictionary version is, you can see that data. But the public part of the MLS data sets are not out yet. We'll have those as we officially push everyone back through the payloads testing. Because as we talked about, we've done the metadata testing. All the MLS organizations have figured that part out. But now as we test the actual data records, there's some inconsistencies we need to work out. So as everyone passes that, we'll start producing those reports. And you'll see this dashboard build with everyone who passes that part of testing.
Marilyn?
That's for anyone who has a question or a concern. We have a lot of companies who come to us and say, I don't know how to have this conversation with my MLS or their software provider. That's what a lot of people come to us at RESO for, and it's for them to say either, I need help having this conversation with someone, or I don't think what I'm seeing in this report is what I'm seeing in production. And I think you've all probably heard this over the years, that you've seen a certified data set, but then maybe the first data set offered to a data consumer is a RETS feed, an old FTP access, and that's not the certified data set. So if that's something where a new vendor who doesn't really know much about the space and how to work with MLSs or vendors yet needs to be able to contact us and say, this doesn't look like what I'm getting and I need to know how to have that conversation, that's for them to contact us. It's not complicated. The software is open source, so the MLS server providers can run these tests themselves with our testing platform. Obviously, to get it officially up on the website, they need to come through Josh Darnell, through Jason to get that officially through. But we would actually like that once we've gotten through the first phase. I think everybody wants that for competition, for product choice, that you keep tuning those systems and keep recertifying or retesting. That's the great transparency of these performance stats.
One thing I forgot to show was the performance is another aspect here. It's empty for this use case, but vendors would be able to go and actually see the server performance as well.
And we'll test out the web API server, and we can all, Josh Darnell, if you're out there in the live stream right now, no pressure, but that thing needs to be fast when we have our own server. So we're excited
Tim?
about that.
So I see here you referenced payloads. Is that checking against the actual IDX payload endorsement, or is that just quantity of field, and is it populated?
So there's two different things here. The payload is just the general concept about the property records, the listing records. So payloads testing is going past metadata into the actual records and making sure they also conform to the standard, not just what was advertised, but what's actually available in the data. The IDX payload is a separate endorsement, which is the Realtor MLS rules for being in compliance with RESO standards within 12 months of a new ratification. The IDX payload is technically due to be in compliance for those MLSs by mid next year. Sorry, we're a little in the weeds, but it's a great question because modification timestamps and keys are required in that. So that'll be required by mid next year for the IDX payload in particular. You'll get a difference report between IDX and the full user data set. But right now, the standard has been for a long time that what's in your data records need to match the standard as well as metadata. So those things will be enforced going forward.
Tim?
What's your timeline to put up the developmental reference server? Do you know if Austin will stay up?
I hope the Austin one stays up. I mean, again, more products sort of giving people different ideas of how these should be implemented, absolutely. So most of that's done, but we obviously are more focused right now on finishing out this part. So this year.
I'm guessing it's josh@reso.org?
Josh at reso.org, yes, all questions. No, Jason at reso.org as well? Yes.
Certification as well would work, yeah. Certification at reso.org.
In all fairness to Josh, he did demo yesterday. It was lightning fast. Even the RESO data dictionary page took forever to load. I think it's the Wi-Fi.
This is just Wi-Fi, thank you.
I believe so.
Josh and his team build some brilliant software, yes. It's a pretty fantastic product. Okay, thank our new technical product manager, Jason Darrough.
Thank you.